right, guys. This is a lecture primarily for my virtual students who are at home. And it's not so much a lecture as just an explanation of what we're going to be doing in class with this next bit of civil rights content. Up to this point, we've been working our way through the modern civil rights movement, and we've largely looked at protests and demonstrations that were peaceful, nonviolent, practicing the philosophy of civil disobedience. And in terms of a goal, the major issue or problem that these protests that we've looked at has been looking to overcome is the issue of segregation, of the separation of the white and black society in the 1950s and 60s. We've looked at Brown versus Board of Education and the Birmingham campaign. Maybe on your poster that you're working on now, you're looking at the Freedom Riders or things like that. The topic that we are shifting to, though, is in the mid 60s, a sensation or a feeling that was emerging within the civil rights movement was a division over both the goals that black people were trying to accomplish, but also the method and the nature of the protests that were going on. What we see is after the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, and as a response to the resistance to the changes. So, for example, when Brown versus Board integrated schools, and then when the Civil Rights Act desegregated public accommodations, there is still such intense white racism and resistance to integration that many in the civil rights movement in the black community advocated for a greater sense of independence, of power for black leaders. And we call this the Black Power movement. Or sometimes it's referred to use Malcolm X language, as black nationalism. And rather than lecture through all this, I just kind of want to show you some of the activities and the discussion questions that we're going to be doing in class. So if you click on your unit page and come down into the links, you'll see several links down here. Black Power pictures and quotes. I'll open those up. Black Power primary sources. These are more text-based. And then Black Power discussion questions. In class, in class, we will likely be doing this on Tuesday, but for the students at home, you can be looking through this stuff as you do your poster project, either on Tuesday or Wednesday. In class, we'll be looking at these. Here are some pictures and quotes. You know, this is Malcolm X. Some of the nobody can give you freedom. Nobody can give you equality or justice or anything. If you're a man, you take it. You can see a much more forceful tone in that quote. Here's some passages by Fannie Lou Hamer, and this is at the 1968 Olympics. Some Black Panther Party pictures and some descriptions. So we're going to look at those in class. In class, we will also look at these primary sources. This first one is just called Black Power. The person who coined that phrase for the first time is Stokely Carmichael. Stokely Carmichael was part of a group called SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and over time, by the mid to late 60s, he is shifting his thinkings away from nonviolence to a more militant Black Power ideology. This second one here, Black Revolution, this is Malcolm X. And this is excerpts from two speeches by Malcolm X. Maybe the most famous one is here in the middle, where he talks about the ballot or the bullet, essentially saying that if black men don't have their voices heard at the polling place through the franchise and through being able to vote, you're going to be faced with somebody who forgets the ballot and starts using the bullet. And you can kind of see that shift towards a more, again, militant and violent form of civil rights protest. Um, Here's another primary source document. Your textbook reading covers this as well. There were several race riots, beginning really in 1963, but carrying on. Maybe the most famous one was in Watts in Los Angeles in 1965, all the way up through 1968. When Martin Luther King is assassinated, there are also several race riots. And a government commission called the Kerner Commission researched and asked the questions: what happened? Why did it happen? And what can be done to prevent it from happening again? So this is a primary source called the Kerner Commission. And then finally, in Oakland, California, in response to poor policing in the black community, and certainly police brutality by white police officers towards black police officers, the Black Panther Party was founded, and this is their 10-point program. So this is a primary source that lets you look into the demands and the ideals of the Black Panther Party. In class, we are in groups and in partners going to be studying these pictures, these quotes, and these primary sources. And then I have discussion questions. This is not necessarily an assignment that I'm going to ask you at home to fill in and submit for a grade, but just because I don't want you guys missing out on this content, these are unifying themes. Why was this concept attractive to some in the black community? How did this break from traditional methods? These questions go right along with these primary sources and these pictures. We're going to be discussing them and working through them in class, and I don't want you at home to miss out on this opportunity. All right. So again, this is definitely not a traditional lecture in the sense of me having information to give to you, but I definitely don't want you to miss these links and these topics that we're covering in class. In your textbook, this is covered in lesson 3. So, by Thursday, we're going to have a reading check on lessons 1, 2, and 3. The Black Power movement, Malcolm X, and Stokely Carmichael are all covered in lesson 3. All right, again, here's our week. You guys at home, hopefully you're working on your civil rights poster project. You got a couple days to do that. I'll put this recorded lecture here on Tuesday, just to fill you in on what else we're spending class time. By the end of this week, your final 2 big grades in this civil rights unit, at least as it pertains to Black Americans, is Module 15 reading check, and then a free response, which has, I believe it has a Martin Luther King and a Malcolm X quote that you need to respond to in your own opinions. So this is where we're at, and then we're at spring break. This will be my last lecture to the virtual students before spring break. I hope you have a great week off, and then when you come back, we'll be ready to finish out civil rights, and then we have one more unit after this. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, you guys.